Welcome to Practically Political. It's great to have you with us. I'm Dave Spencer.
And I'm Carrie Sheffield, and we are excited for this special episode with our special guest again returning, Masada Siegel. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you guys again. It's always insightful and interesting, and I love the different perspectives.
Great. Well, let's get right to it. I'm going to throw this first question to Dave. So, Dave, just looking at this bombshell report from the Washington Post, they reported that Ukrainian President Zelensky, he secretly wanted to attack Russian villages and even destroy a pipeline between Russia and NATO member Hungary. Do you think that this bombshell report should cause the West to rethink its strategy with Ukraine? And do you think it's going to be a factor in the 2024 presidential race?
Well, the short answer is no and no, because as you say, these are just allegations. And again, thinking about doing something, talking about doing something is a lot different than actually doing something. Just like there have been many people who have talked about not abiding or complaining about election results, but there's only been one person, as we know, that's actually tried to overturn it. So I think that overall, Zelensky's played his hand very well. And I think whatever one thinks of Joe Biden's foreign policy, I think he's handled the Ukraine situation very well. So I wouldn't read too much into these reports. The bottom line is that Zelensky wants to preserve his country. Ukrainians want to be free. You're seeing a lot of countries. Germany just came through with a $3 billion package, which is huge because Scholz had been criticized for not walking the talk. So I think it's not going to be a factor in the 24 election unless things go terribly wrong. But I really do believe, and Kevin McCarthy, to his credit, when he was in Israel, shot back at a Russian reporter, and I need to go out of my way to say how impressed I was with his candor and his spine on this one, saying, no, what your country did was bad, and we're going to stick with Ukraine. Russia cannot win.
Dave, all hell has frozen over. You complimented Kevin McCarthy. My hat is off to you.
I compliment Donald Trump. I compliment people when they deserve it.
Yes, no, but I think that's the first for me that I've heard you compliment Kevin McCarthy. So kudos to you. But no, I think that yes, I think you can both be, wanting answers as far as like how are we spending the money, how are taxpayers, U.S. taxpayers, subsidizing this conflict. I think it's a good investment because it protects the West from Russian aggression. And so it's actually in some ways, sort of outsourcing American and NATO interests to be fought for by the Ukrainian, blood and their military. So it's strategically very good for the United States. But I also think it's unfortunate when anybody ever wants to ask any questions or be, ask Zelensky, why are you planning to go on, invade Russia, basically? Because the Washington Post said that the plan, and again, I understand what you're saying, you're talking about it, but the fact that he's even talking about it means that there's an intention, there's a desire, and possibly secretly, there probably are doing some of these assassinations anyway already. But that there is a desire to go on offense. I think that's an impulse that really should be questioned. And there's nothing, unpatriotic for an American to say that. And there's also nothing unpatriotic for an American to say, why are we spending so much money protecting a foreign border when our own border is completely overrun? It's a complete disaster. And as far as I'm concerned, Mayorkas should be impeached and removed and put somebody else in there. But yeah, I think there's a way to walk and chew gum. And I think that unfortunately, when it comes to Ukraine, it tends to be so black and white in either direction. But let's get Masada in.
So I will tell you, war is war. And I think as an American, we don't really thankfully comprehend what that means. So the fact that Zelensky is thinking or planning or has ideas in his head, tens of thousands of young people have died on both sides right now. And I don't think we appreciate how horrifying that is. This is a war situation. So do I agree do I think that you should attack more cities? Do I think you should attack a NATO friend of ours? Not particularly, but am I surprised? No. And the thing is, this war is so complicated and so many different countries have so many different interests in the situation. For example, like you said, Ukraine fighting against Russia is doing a service to certain countries because they're not having to get involved in this situation. And then when you ask certain countries to say, well, do you pick the Ukraine or do you pick Russia? What side are you on? Well, they might be on the side of the Ukraine because Russia did invade a sovereign nation. However, they have their own interests. One of the things that I learned when I was at CIPA, at Columbia University's School of International and Public Affairs School, was countries have permanent interests, not permanent friends. And so there's a lot at play here. So in terms of the 2024 election, I don't think it will make a difference. I think America, pretty much, we stand behind Ukraine. I'm going to say this is the feel that I get on the ground right now from talking to people. And I also think inflation is a much bigger issue for people. I think grocery shopping is more of an interest at play in the 2024 election. I think people are more interested in their own pocketbook than they are in what's going on. And the foreign budget is so low compared to the national budget of how much money we spend here that I think people just aren't that interested.
Well, and the only thing I would add too is that, again, I won't get into what I think is a false equivalency about saying our borders and their borders, but the bottom line is that anyone who says, well, we're spending too much money on Ukraine, it's going to be chump change compared to what if Putin wins and then he goes after the Baltics or he goes after some NATO country. So this is really, as far as I'm concerned, a preemptive expense, which I think will be well worth it. And it's also the world order we've had since the end of the Second World War.
And
Masada, please.
If I could just jump in real quick. I know my European friends, they're the ones who are more concerned than anyone else. The price of gasoline has gone up. The price of electricity has gone up. They're the ones who are petrified that if Russia does advance through Ukraine, they might be next. And some of my friends in smaller countries like the Netherlands, I mean, they're not going to be able to protect themselves. It would cause a major world war. And the truth is, it's 2023. I think it's time for us to try to use diplomacy to the best of our abilities.
I agree.